welcome to my podcast. My name is Betsy, and I'm here to share some life experiences that I've had throughout the last 30 years with my daughter, Mindy. And I'm hoping to make you laugh and make you cry, but most of all, just to let you know that anything is possible when you have God in the midst of it all. Hi, everyone. This is Betsy, and this is my podcast. I wanted to share some thoughts today on the topic of support. Now, you can have lots of different opinions about support, but this is mine. And I wanted to hit on a little bit on 3 types of support. Support for the person who's challenged, whether physically or mentally. That's one. There's also the caregiver support, giving or getting support. And the third one is family support. So again, these are my thoughts and my opinions, and mostly what I have needed throughout the years. Everyone's experience is different. Everybody's family is different. I'm just hoping that what I share, would help someone, or, Kevin and I always welcome feedback. So I want to talk about the person who has a challenge, whether it be a physical challenge or mental challenge, and the support they would need. Now, for me, I have a daughter with cerebral palsy. She's 30 years old, and the support that she needs is completely physical. She's nonverbal, non-ambulatory, so I give her a lot of physical support. But also, she needs emotional support. I'm a mom who likes to give lots of hugs and kisses. And even though she's nonverbal, I know her best. I do my best to support her emotionally, which means not only do I hug and kiss her, but I try to meet her emotional needs as well as social needs. We go out every day into the community. We went to the lighthouse recently. I spent a lot of time this summer at Ocean County with a friend, and we had an absolute wonderful summer 2023. I take her to Seaside Heights. They have boardwalks there. Belmar's got a boardwalk, and you can see the ocean there. Just different types of places I try to take her to keep her mentally engaged in the community. So again, she needs a lot of physical support. I bathe her, I shave her legs, and whatever else, daily living needs she has, I meet those needs. But she also needs emotional support, and I give her spiritual support, meaning that we sing together, we dance around to not only music. We do a lot of 80s music, but we also do a lot of what people will call religious music, praise and worship music. It makes her really happy, and we dance around a lot. So the next topic I'm going to talk about is caregiver. Being a caregiver is a very challenging position to be in. Especially, I think, if you do it on ongoing day in and day out versus a job where you clock in and you're able to have your own life at home with your family, and the person you care for doesn't live with you. Being a live-in caregiver is, like I said, can be challenging. Also, it's physically exhausting, emotionally exhausting. So a caregiver needs support as they support others as well. And it's super important. The first person that has to support the caregiver is their caregiver themselves. Meaning, you gotta find time for you. You gotta go out. You gotta do something you enjoy. Whether it's a movie, just to decompress or unplug for a little bit, and get a pedicure, go out for coffee with a friend. Anything you can do just so that you can self-love, support yourself. It's important to have, as a caregiver, outside support. If you're blessed enough to have family members, that's my daughter Mindy in the background. If you're blessed enough to have family members to help you, oh my God, that has to be a game changer. I've never had that. But I've often met families that said they have siblings or a parent that comes in and just, allows them, a couple of hours to themselves. Also, emotional support. Same thing here. It's great to have someone you can share what you're going through. It's especially amazing if you have someone that understands your life. Throughout the years, with me caring for my daughter, Mindy, I've had people give me advice that did not apply. And they mean well most of the time. But the advice they give, I really couldn't use it because my situation was very different. Things like, girl, you got to take time for yourself, which is you do need that, right? I just said that you need support, but I didn't have anyone to help me with my daughter. She didn't have nurses until she was 17. And so it took me a while to realize, how to get nursing for her so that I could have a break because I work full time. And just the same, I had to learn how to support myself and break away. It was something that was very difficult for me. I didn't know how to. But eventually I burned out and I had to, give myself some time. And the next topic I want to talk about is family support. Your family as a whole needs support because everybody has different perspective of what's going on, especially if you have other children in the family, whether it be younger or older children. Having a mentally or physically challenged family member it's just different on it causes different stresses on different siblings, on the parents themselves, how everybody views things. It's important that as a mom or a dad, or a family member will speak to the younger or the other children regarding how they feel. I've never actually did this with my children. I was always working off defense because something was always happening. But I really wish I would have taken the time to speak to my children and ask them, hey, she just had a seizure. We just came from the emergency room and she's stable now. She's good. But how did that make you feel? What did you think about what happened, with the ambulance that came and the police department that came and taking the ride down there? Were you scared? Are you scared about her life? Do you think, what are you thinking? How does that make you feel? Because especially with children, they're not always able to articulate their emotions. And sometimes they really need someone just to talk it through so they can kind of explore where they are. I mean, truth be told, for me as well, as a parent, I had to speak to someone about whatever I was going through. And it was sometime I didn't have anybody available until weeks later. And so I carried a lot of emotion. And so anything that would come up would touch that and I would elevate. My reaction would be quick because I was still carrying the fear of my daughter, passing on, or the fear of her being really sick and being hospitalized. So I needed, some kind of support in those areas. And I personally did not know how to find it because I just had such a busy life. Everything, it just felt like the life wasn't stopping enough so that I could catch up. So I like to think that if the parent or the caregiver is supported and feels supported, then they can go ahead and support the person they're caring for. There was a time where my daughter was in the hospital. I think it was her first surgery, which was her hip surgery. And I have a really great friend named Barbara. And she's a pastor, an apostle now. So back then, she was one of my greatest support systems. And I remember being in the hospital, and she would call me because we would go to DuPont Hospital for children in Delaware. It's an exceptional hospital for orthopedic especially. Anyway, my daughter had her hips. Her one hip was out of the socket, it was being put back in place. They had to take a bone from the other hip to frame the hip itself, because the ball of the hip from rubbing was now a square instead of a round ball. So the surgery was really painful for her. And I remember when she came out of surgery, I had to spend a lot of time in prayer, a lot of time, because this was her first surgery and I didn't know what to expect. So anyway, my friend Barbara would call me every morning and every night, and this would be our conversation. And she would say, how you doing? And I would tell her, I'm good. And she would say, how's Mindy? And I said, she's good. And she would ask me if I needed anything, and I would say, no, I just need you to get me so I can get her. And I said that over and over, and she would say to me, I got you, I got you. So what I was asking her was for prayer for myself, because as long as I was strong enough, I could pray for Mindy, or I got Mindy, right? And that those phone calls were everything, because not a whole lot of people called me. At that time, she was the only friend that called me. And then I had some church, folks that called. But I was trying to keep my emotions in check, and trying to stay focused on caring for my daughter. It wasn't until after she got home and after a few weeks that I think I actually cried just to relieve some stress. The surgery was planned, so I knew it was coming. But seeing your child in that condition was really tough. She was in a lot of pain. And I don't think there's anything really worse than seeing your kid in pain. You want to take that pain on to yourself so they don't experience it. But she did. And we got through it, through a lot of prayer. But the support I needed at that time was I just needed to know somebody was praying for me. That was the biggest thing. Hey, if you got me, I got Mindy. Above all, I knew that God had us. But that was support that I needed most. Another time, Mindy was in and out of the hospital between 2000 and 2010. There's a whole decade I don't even remember. Because it was very, very stressful time. There was another time that we were in the hospital, and Delaware was like a little over an hour from where I lived. But it was like 2 hours from my family and friends and where I went to church. It was far. So I didn't get any visitors, or very few. And so there was a time that I went there, and after that one surgery, she had what they call failure to thrive. That surgery really it was really tough on her. She stopped eating. She became anorexic from that surgery. So we were in and out of the hospital a lot, because she went from 53 pounds to 39 pounds in a matter of, a couple of months. She just kept losing weight. And she needed a G-tube, but she had an NG tube, which is a tube that goes in your nose down to your stomach to feed you. She was really malnourished at the time and lost a lot of weight. And at that time, I remember, for some reason, we weren't financially secure. And I guess being at the hospital a lot, I would needed food. And I remember the support I needed then was just someone to bring me food or give me money for food. And I didn't have that. And I recall one time being really hungry, and I asked the nurse, I said, hey, is there like a voucher for a parent? And I was a little embarrassed to ask, to be truthful, right? But I asked because I was really hungry. And she gave me a voucher, but not without a price. I felt like belittled. She made me feel, I forgot how the conversation went, but, I got in, went to the cafeteria and had something to eat. But at that time, I really wish I would have lived closer to home, so that someone could have, brought me food. And to this day, when I hear that someone's in the hospital, I like to cook for them. I like to send, warm food and a decent meal. I try to do everything, even the drinks and everything, because I remember what it's like not to have, financial or, have food, a basic necessity at the hospital. and it makes you feel really lonely and alone. So there are many types of ways you can support a person who's mentally or physically challenged, a caregiver, or even the family. Another way you can support a family is by just taking the kids out, maybe to a movie, and let them play with your kids if you have any around the same age, or give them a gift card, to, I don't know, McDonald's or something that makes them feel special. Typically, when you have a special needs person in the home, whether it be a child or an adult, life becomes about them because there's so much that it's so involved, right? So the other people that live in the house sometimes can feel left out, but someone could come in and support them by giving them some love, giving some attention, make them a favorite meal, give them their favorite candy bar, anything to make them feel special. A gift, a toy, something that will separate them from the situation, I think is a great family support. Other than that, that's pretty much just my 2 cents with that. If you have any questions or comment or ways that you think can support, a family, a caregiver, or the person with needs, please feel free to give, and we learn from one another. It's always a privilege to be able just to share my thoughts and my experience. Like I said, in the past podcast, my daughter is 30 years old. I learned a lot. And in the beginning, when she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, I was, to say the least, devastated. And I didn't know how to navigate. And for some reason, I really didn't, reach for help. There's a lot of help out there. And a lot of groups. There are a lot of parents that know a lot more than I do, that do things differently. I'm sure they even do it better than what I do. My way is just a way of doing it, and it works for me. And it's worked, for us for a while. So again, feel free to share some of your thoughts, and thank you for listening. We hope that you listen soon again. God bless you.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Betsy, for that wonderful episode. You certainly gave us a lot to think about and hopefully pray about. All opinions expressed were strictly your own. This has been a presentation of the Advocacy Life Podcast Network. See you soon. Thanks for listening.